Hi printmakers, here I am recording your demo video for today, Friday, September 30th. This is making me feel like it's the pandemic again, so that's not super fun. But this is a really clear way for me to share with you information since I will be out today. So you have already at this point, by the time you're watching the demo video, gone through and completed the agenda, which is doing a critique with cookies of the monotypes downstairs around the piano. Seniors will be leading the discussion. I want you to think about specifically how the monotype process will be applicable for what we're going to be doing with linoleum. And then today is the linoleum prep day. It's something super easy that you can do while I'm out. And so this is all working out really well. We're going to get into the actual work with cyanotype and linoleum next week when I'm back. And so here's what to do to start this process. First, you're going to want to find your black and white image. I realize that you may not have that because we left class, and I don't know that people stopped by the copier. So just a quick review, if you've forgotten which image that was, I'm just gonna go into a sample here and go through those steps with you. So this process was simply involving editing the image, as I'm about to do now. You first need to flip it. You need to change it to black and white by reducing this, or perhaps you've already done that on your phone, or you might prefer to do this on your phone. I'm going to up the contrast a little bit because I know that I'm going to be doing a linoleum, and I know that I'm not going to be able to get every subtlety of gray in there. And so you want to go back and redo this. Unfortunately, if you didn't pick yours up from the copier, this was from Monday's class, or maybe you've already saved it in black and white, perhaps, and then you can just reprint it. So all I'm doing right now are those steps, and I'm just going to go Visual Arts Copier, and don't worry too much about if it has the banding on it. And I'm in Portrait, which is great. Mine doesn't really matter if I change it to 8 by 10 because, as you can see, my background is pretty light, which is going to mean what? I have a lot of carving. So this is not the image I would choose to do a linoleum with, but it's the one I have on my computer. So I'm changing it to 8 by 10 just to show you because the linoleum pieces that you're going to get are 8 by 10. And so please print that or go retrieve it from the printer. You might be lucky enough to find it down there. So that's what you're going to be working with today. And I want to show you the two things that you're going to do going back to the slides. You're going to be sketching and you'll be transferring. So let me pause for a second to get everything set up and switched over, and then I'll go over how that's actually going to look. Okay, so I'm back with my image, and all I'm doing right now to start is trimming the border off of the picture. That way I can best position it on the linoleum eventually. Before we actually get to working on the linoleum, I want you to begin by better understanding the white areas of this image. So we'll be doing that using tracing paper and a white pen or paint pen or crayon. All of these things can be found at the table that I'm sitting at right now. So I'm just going to turn the computer around so that you can see the materials you'll be using today. You'll be using the white pen, the tracing paper, you'll need a piece of tape, white transfer paper, and then eventually you'll need your linoleum as well. So let me get started with what I want you to do with the tracing paper. So I have a light box. I think that's going to work best. You guys know where those are. They're in the back of the room. So I have my image here on the light box. I'm going to take one piece of tape, not a lot of pieces of tape, and I'm going to put it right here on the top of the image. And then I'm going to take my white pen. Why would I take white? Well, I'm going to take white because I'm eventually going to be carving on the linoleum everything that's white using a tool that looks like this. So if you've done linoleum, you know that you actually begin with a black rectangle. So if I rolled ink out over this with a roller and I didn't make any marks, it would be exactly that, a black rectangle. It is up to me, though, as the artist, to use the carving tool, which we will not be using today, to carve out the white and gray marks onto the linoleum. So that is why we have the white tracing paper. It's also why we have the white pen or paint pen. And so what I want to do is go through and I want to just study my image, starting with the brightest white in a very loose gestural way. We're actually going to be using these tracing papers to do the transfer because I don't want linoleums that are just these stagnant kind of internet printed linoleums anymore. We've had that happen for a couple of years and they've been totally fine, but I'd really rather have the images look a lot more gestural as though you've drawn them. And that's why we're going to start with this step of doing all of the white marks with our pen, because if you can't do it with pen, it's going to be extremely challenging to do it underhanded and with a carving tool that's sharp and resisting the linoleum. So I'd like for you to do 2 different tracings today. As you can see, I've selected almost the worst possible image for linoleum. Why is this terrible? Because it has so much white. I would have done better to select something that's mostly dark. And so that's fine. I'm pressing on with this just for the sake of the demo, and I don't want this video to be that much longer. But what I'm doing, you can probably see by just the way my arms or my hand is moving, is I'm making different types of marks. So in the sky behind Penny and Piper, I'm going to be carving out a lot of that sky. But for right now, I'm just going to make a nice horizontal mark because what I have next to that horizontal mark is their hair, and that's what I love about this image so much. That's what makes it so endearing, is the way their hair is blowing in the wind. Those marks are kind of spiraling around, and so they're going to be supported by a nice sort of rigid mark horizontally in the sky. Or maybe I want to chop up the sky because I know, excuse me, how to use a linoleum tool, and I know that that might be a good mark to use, and instead I would use the horizontal mark in the water. You can barely see what I'm doing because I'm working white on tracing paper. So let me hold it up so you can see a little bit better. See how that's coming through now? But I need to understand the white. I don't really actually care at all about the dark parts of the image, except for that I want to avoid them. So you're spending the bulk of your class doing this. And then once you've done, depending on how much time, I was kind of thinking y'all would do 2 of these, but you may only get to 1 of them. So just kind of pace it out because I would like for you to at least start the transfer process. And this is all going to kind of depend on how long the critique takes, et cetera, et cetera. And so let me slide over here and at least show you how to do the transfer. And again, no one's using this tool today. I just had that out just to show you what eventually we're going to be using. And so once I have a nice tracing, again, my tracing, I don't want to actually use my image here. I'm going to tape that to the top of my linoleum. I've cut the tracing paper to be exactly the size of the linoleum, and make sure it's still in the flipped orientation. Then you're going to take white transfer paper. There is a side that is waxier. That needs to go facing down. And then you are going to get not a white pen anymore because those are going to be sort of soft in the on the tip of the pen. I don't think it's going to transfer very well. So now I'm actually at this point just switching to regular ballpoint pen, which are back on the same table that I'm working at. And then I'm just going to recapture all the marks that I just transferred. And of course, like as with all my demos, I'm not doing every single thing. Otherwise, this would take the whole class, and I want you to actually be able to work. Let me get a little bit of Penny's hair so you can see. I think that's got more of the marks that I want you to really be able to see the transfer of. I'm pressing pretty hard in order to get this, just so you know. So unlike the carbon, the black carbon paper where I ask you to generally press lightly, I think with the white, you do need to press pretty hard. But the good thing is you'll see everything you've gone over because it will now be done with a ballpoint pen, blue or black or whatever ink color you get. So that is the day today, Friday, September 30th, while I am out. I hope you have a good day. I hope you get your image mostly transferred or all the way transferred onto your linoleum so that we could be carving next week. Thank you. Have a good weekend.